So we're finishing up a series I've been doing all of February, and we'll finish up today. And we're talking about how to change the atmosphere in our relationship. And if you have a relationship, whether it's with your spouse, with a child, with someone at work, someone in your neighborhood, a family member, if you have a relationship that's not healthy, that's not going well, more than likely the problem is the atmosphere in the relationship has become toxic. Maybe there's tension. Maybe there's unforgiveness, maybe there's jealousy, anger, but something has happened to cause that atmosphere of the relationship to not be healthy. And so we've been talking about how do you change the atmosphere in a relationship. And so the thought is this: what happens if love replaces unforgiveness? What happens if selflessness replaces selfishness? What happens if instead of pointing the finger at the other person, we take responsibility for ourselves? And so we've been working on this for a number of weeks. And of course, our text comes from Romans 12:18, which says this: do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. So do all that you can. That's personal responsibility. And then we've been talking about some important things. Number one, how to live in covenant. What does covenant mean? How do we live in covenant? And the second thing was, how do we live in grace? How do we have more grace in our relationships? And last week, and if you've missed any of these, you can go to our YouTube page or website. I really encourage you to do this. But the third one last week talked about is how to empower people through relationships. And God's goal was to empower us. That's why he sent his son, Jesus. In our relationships, when we have relationships with other people, with our spouse, with our kids, God's goal is that our relationships, through us, we empower people. We help people. And so I talked about that. A lot of relationships today, they're controlling, they're manipulative, or they're enabling. Enabling means you just do everything and it enables them. But God's vision is for our relationships to empower other people, to help people reach their potential. And so now, this morning, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room in many homes across America. And so we're going to talk about money. Don't raise your hands, but how many of you have thought about money this week? Don't raise your hands, but how many people know that it's the other person's fault? For sure. I'm sure it's the husband's fault. I'm sure of that, right? So, although we live in such a prosperous nation, all the research, all the studies suggest that Americans are not doing well financially. And it does not matter if you're married or single. There's like a dark cloud hovering over the majority of Americans when it comes to money. And studies suggest that most married couples don't have a healthy relationship when it comes to their personal finances. It's a source of conflict, stress, and tension. And so this morning I'm going to do three things, okay? First of all, I'm going to teach you how to have a money talk that resolves issues where there's no arguing, there's no fighting, which means you have to be an adult. Sometimes I have couples come in for help and I'm meeting with them and I'm like, okay, hold on. We have a problem that we have to deal with before I can help you. And they're like, well, what's the problem? Y'all aren't acting like adults. I mean, I thought it was very nice. Yeah. But how many times we go through life and we're dealing with people that should be adults, but they're not acting like adults? Amen. How many of you know someone like that? How many of it's you? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Okay. But I'm just going to give you a simple formula. Number one, I'm going to teach you how to have a money talk. Number two, I'm going to teach you how to create a vision for your finances. And it's just very, very simple. Now, it may take you a few months to get here, but I'm going to give you the tools today. Okay, but how valuable would it be? Think about this. If money is a source of stress, maybe don't talk about it, maybe you fight about it. How valuable would it be if the two of you could work together as a team? How valuable would it be if you can talk about money without arguing, if you develop a common vision in your finances, if you are working together to live the life that you dream of, a fulfilling life? And so what I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to give you a different perspective. I realize that we have some people that have been coming here for 10, 15 years, and so I I try my very best. I don't recycle sermons. I add stuff to them. And so I want to come from a different angle this morning, a different perspective. And I'm an avid reader. I tell you that I read a lot of books. I read the Bible through every year. I do all my studying for all my messages, of course, from the Bible. But I read a variety of books on a variety of topics. My goal is I want to keep growing. I want to keep learning. I want to keep gaining wisdom and insight and knowledge, because if I don't grow, I can't help you grow. Have you ever been somewhere and you heard someone teaching and like they were awesome, they was just incredible, but after you're there for 6 months, there's nothing new? Don't say yes. I shouldn't have said that. Bad Terry. I shouldn't have done that, okay? About a year and a half ago, I discovered a financial expert I haven't heard of, and his name is Ramit Sethi. I believe they have a picture of him. And I felt, offered a unique approach to finances. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to let you know right up front. He's not a Christian, okay? A lot of financial experts are not Christians. But you know one thing? If you talk to a secular person, expert on finances, you know what I learn is all their principles are from the Bible. Everyone, they don't know it. They may not know it. The only thing they may not talk about tithing or giving to charity or churches. But let's just take a walk through the book of Proverbs. This is the short list, right? Proverbs 23:5, cast but a glance at riches and they are gone, for they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle. How many of you looked at your account one day and it was pretty full, and you looked at it 2 days later and it like that's a true verse, right? Like it took wings and sprouted. A guy told me, yeah, it's my wife, So anyway, of course, it's always the other person, right? But what's that saying? You got to deal with this thing of money. You've got to deal with it. You've got to own it. You've got to look at it. You've got to manage it if you want God to bless it. It is not a good prayer for you to ask God to bless you with more if you're not doing good with what you have. Okay, that's a biblical principle. Let's look at Proverbs 21:20. The wise store up, in parentheses, that's mine, save choice food and oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Another translation says, fools waste everything that they get. And so again, as we get something, we need to save some for the future. There needs to be some left over, not live paycheck to paycheck. Proverbs 27:23, be sure to know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. And of course, this was written in a society that was not modern like ours, and their herds and their flocks were their assets. So it's like you have to know the condition of your flock, and that would be the same thing as you have to know the condition of your finances. You have to know, how much you have in your checking account, how much you have in your savings account, what's coming down the road, what you need to save for. Proverbs 22:7, it says this: the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Of course, that's talking about the danger of debt, I had someone tell me one time, it's like, I'm not a slave to anyone. He didn't like this verse. I'm like, well, okay, just don't pay. Don't pay your house payment. Don't pay your car payment. Yes, if you owe money, you're a slave to the lender. And one more verse, Proverbs 13:11, dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. And of course, that's talking about the power of saving and compound interest. And if you go on a retirement calculator and if you put things in, it's like, man, if I put this much in over the course of 30 years and the power of compound interest, it's really incredible. But you got to do it little by little to have something left at the end. And so the first time, actually, Ramit Sethi, the first time I heard of him, he has a show on Netflix. And so I watched that. It was fairly interesting, So his first book he wrote, he had his unique title. The title is "I Will Teach You to Be Rich," and that got my attention. So I read it. It has nothing to do with amassing large amounts of money and becoming like wealthy as far as financial goes. He coined this term, your rich life. And please, what I want you to do with me, please don't tune me out. I'm taking you on a journey today, okay? We're going to hit 2 or 3 things, then we're going to bring it all together. So don't tune me out. Just listen, stay with me. I'm taking you on a journey, and I believe the journey will be helpful for you. So he coined this term, your rich life. And what he means by this, your rich life, it's an expression of your ideal life in which your money, your relationships, and your leisure time work together for you. It's a system that helps couples design a vision together and use their money to make it a reality. So, okay, getting started here. So if what he would say and what I'm going to say is, like, think about, okay, as a couple, what is your rich life? Or what would be a fulfilling life to you? What is important to you? You know, what would you identify as your priorities in life? You know, living your rich life or living a fulfilling life is when your money is working with us to create the life we dream about, and it's different for everyone. So let's talk about this for a minute. Some people, I talk to some people, and they just want to travel. They want to travel, right? Their rich life, their fulfilled life would be if they were able to travel throughout their life and go see, maybe travel in country and do a lot of things and go overseas and do things. And so that's some people, that would be their fulfilled life. To other people, you know, some people just want more time with their families. There are some men who say, I would just like to be able to pick up my kids at 3 o'clock from school. I'm working so much I can't see my family. And so their rich life has nothing to do with all these other things. It's just family oriented. Others would be to take vacations with families. Other people might say, my rich life, my fulfilled life would be to have a nice house. It's very, very important. I put a high priority on having a house. That's their rich life, okay? Some people want to drive nice cars. Some people want to retire at a young age. They don't want to work till they're too old to enjoy some things. They want to take some time. Other people love to work, and they don't want to retire at a young age. They want to keep doing things. Others may put a priority on eating at fancy restaurants or wearing nice clothes, cashmere sweaters, whatever. So there's nothing right or wrong about this. But the thought is, you know, what is your rich life? What is your fulfilled life? And then making sure that your money is allowing you to live that life. It's that simple. I had a friend of mine who, one of my best friends, his name was Ed. And one time I went out and I bought a new shirt. And I guess it was kind of an expensive shirt. And we were having a conversation. He's like, you know, I'd rather buy 7 shirts at $5 than pay $80 for one shirt. I didn't say this, but I'm thinking, yeah, it shows, you know. Like, he just didn't care about dressing nice. He didn't care about, he just wanted comfortable clothes. It's like, hey, I'm married, I have a family. I don't need to impress anybody. That was just him. You know, some people, their rich life would be if they were able to be more generous and give. Okay, and again, as Christians, now I just want to show you, as Christians, we all should be givers. And the Bible clearly says that we should bring a tithe to the storehouse, and I understand that. And a lot of people today, they're not able to be generous because their finances are so messed up. I hardly ever hear anyone that says, Pastor, I don't want to tithe them against tithing. Most people are like, no, I'm trying to get in position to do that. My finances are just kind of messed up. You know, 2 Corinthians 8:7, it says this, but since you excel in everything, in faith and speech, in knowledge and in complete earnestness, and in the love we have kindled in you, see that you also excel in this grace of giving. But what Ramit discovered through all of his lectures and talking with people, he discovered that most people, the majority of people, are not living the type of life they want, their rich life, because their money is upside down. So they're spending money on things that for them have a low value, and then they don't have money to do the things that they really desire to do. For example, let's say they want to travel, but spend so much money on their housing and their cars that they can't travel. So what he's saying is, hey, live in a cheaper house, buy nice used cars so that you have money to travel. So here's the thing. No one in this room has enough money to do anything you want. No one has enough money to do anything that they want. So what's very important, if I'm wrong, hit the offering box on your way out, okay? You know, maybe somebody, their really goal in life is they want to retire early and be able to do whatever they want to do, but they spend so much in other areas that they're not even able to put money into a retirement account. So several years ago, I do the finances, for our family, and I keep Tracy involved in all that because she hates doing it. So I told her at the end of 1 month, I'm like, hey, we spent too much money on food this month. And she said, inflation. She said, I know, I understand, but we ate out too much. We spent a lot more than I'm just letting you know that, okay? And so then, I noticed the next month, hey, she really cooks incredible rice and beans. I love rice and beans, but I'm getting rice and beans. I'm getting mac and cheese. I'm getting some cheap meals, right? And, maybe that's a good meal to you. So I'm like, babe, what's going on? Well, you said we spent too much, so I'm cutting back. She gave me the rice and beans treatment for 30 days, right? And so I was at a quandary as to what to do there, And I'm like, well, I think we can, I just meant we need to cut back 10 to 15%. I didn't mean, cut back 80%, okay? Lesson learned. But your rich life, your fulfilled life, is when you're directing money into the areas that are a priority for you. You spend less on things that have no value or low value, and you spend more money on the things that you do. Does this make sense? And so, if you go through your finances and you're like, man, we're paying, how many subscriptions do we have that we don't use? Gym memberships that we don't use, And what he found was this, people argue over $30 Target things, and sometimes Target or whatever can be a problem. But what he found is that usually there's two problems. People overspend on houses and cars. And so in other words, if 80% of your income is going to a house and a car, that's a problem. You don't have any money to save. You don't have any money. So then Ramit, he transitioned from his first book, and he's like, man, I want to help couples. And so he wrote a book called Money for Couples, and you can get that. It's a good book. But then he started a Money for Couples podcast. And it's so popular that people get on the podcast with him, and he helps them and talks to them through their stuff. There's a month's waiting list because so many people are trying to apply to do that. But this is what he found. Now he's talking to hundreds and hundreds and perhaps thousands of couples. This is what he found. 50% of couples don't know their income. So 50% of the couples couldn't tell them how much money they made. 90% of couples don't know how much debt they have. 100% of couples with credit card debt have difficulty saying no to their children. The overwhelming majority of people, and this is interesting, the majority of people who describe their financial situation as dire, like it's a 9 or a 10 out of 10 problem, they've never read a book on finances. I mean, we're in an information age where you can listen to podcasts, you can read books, and they hadn't done anything to it. Their problem is dire, like they're about to go bankrupt, but they didn't do that. And so anyway, so there's a lot of misconceptions about money and relationships, and how many of you have heard that money is the number one cause of divorce? Well, there was a study done by Lauren Papp, Mark Cummings, and Marcy Goki Mori, and they found that couples don't even talk about the subject of money. Like, they have terrible financial situations, but they don't even talk about it. And what happens is they don't talk about it until it's so bad. Like, it's such a festering problem that things start to blow up. According to actual diaries kept in marriage relationships, the top source of fights are three things: kids, chores, and communication. That's what people are fighting about. But research has discovered that most couples don't talk about money until it blows up. And what happens is it gets so bad, they wait so long that everything is so emotional. There's so much tension and drama because you're underwater financially that it blows up. And when you're over emotional, when you're dramatic, when you're scared, when you're hurt, when you're worried, it's hard to have a conversation. And that's the problem. They don't talk about it until it is just so bad. So that led me to a question. Why are couples not discussing their financial situation with each other? And the answer is quite interesting. I think I have the answer. It turns out that the problem is that most couples, they speak a different language when it comes to money. We're just wired differently. And so what happens is it's hard for them to have an initial conversation because they're coming at it from different ways. And so in other words, usually you marry somebody that's opposite from you, and we're attracted to someone who's different than we are. I mean, that's the whole thing. So again, before marriage, opposites attract, and after marriage, opposites attack, right? That's what we do. It's like we're attracted, then we want them to be just like us. So in recent years, so again, we're on this journey. In recent years, social scientists have made several discoveries that I believe can bridge the gap and create unity in our financial realm. They start talking about two things: the psychology of money and the language of money. Psychology of money, how you think about money, and the language of money. So money psychology, this relates to how we think about money, and this is formed in us as we grow up, normally our family of origin. So you have to think about it. Were you raised in a poor family, a middle-class family, or a wealthy family? Were finances talked about? Were your parents savers or spenders? Was a source of money, the topic of money, a source of strife and tension in your family? Because how we were introduced to the concept of money as we're growing up, it affects us. It determines where we are. So Tracy and I are like, we're like so different, okay? But when Tracy was growing up, she was raised in a family that where money, I don't want to. It was just a struggle. Money was a struggle. They were very tight, and to provide for everyone, and that was tough. I was raised in a family that had money, but my parents were depression kids. They were raised, right after the Great Depression, and so like my parents had a little bit of money, but they would not spend a little bit of money, right? So I was raised, like if it's a new sports season, everyone goes get shoes, and my parents would be like, "Hey, we'll give you this much money for shoes, but I want this pair." And so what I did, I just started working when I was 13 and started working for a tree trimmer, and I started buying my own stuff. Like I hated that. Like I'll just buy it myself, And so anyway, but what I'm saying is, so as Tracy and I got married, we're coming from two different things. We're coming from two different angles, and so you have to learn to appreciate each other, and you have to learn to talk, and we're coming from different areas. And so then let's talk about money language. That's a psychology, how you think about money, how you were raised thinking about money, how you handle money, and you come together with someone else. Then there's money languages, okay? And Gary Chapman, he wrote a best-selling book years ago called The 5 Love Languages, right? And it talks about the language we use to express love. There's 5 of them: physical touch, acts of service, quality time, gift giving and receiving, words of affirmation. Listen, that book sold 20 million copies, and it's been translated into 50 different languages. Like it's a really good book, okay? Well, what social scientists are saying is, just as there's a love language, how we express love, there's also a money language. There's a money language, how we talk, how we view money. So I'm going to give you 5 of them here, or 4 of them, and then I'm going to give you a link to where you can go you and your wife can go take a test if you want to, a little quiz that'll diagnose what your money language is. But financial psychologist Dr. Kenneth Dole, he developed 4 money languages to help people understand each other. And so let's talk about these. Number 1 is the driver. The driver. And these people are goal-oriented and decisive. Drivers are motivated by achievement and success, but may sometimes come off as controlling or overly focused on financial outcomes. So I'm a driver, okay? And so when Trace and I when we first got married, we were so poor. I mean, it was like we were working as hard as we could, going to college. We didn't have any money. And that just really messed with me because I wanted to provide for my family better, right? And so, then I went into ministry, and I'm just being honest, they don't pay youth pastors very much money. Then I came here to start this church, and, the church was just starting. We had 10 people, so I didn't take a salary from the church for a number of years. And so, but I was working multiple jobs. I started 2 different real estate businesses and all these different things, started getting rental properties and all these to supplement my income. And so here's the thing about a driver that people don't understand. So like my kids would give me a hard time. Oh, Dad's buying another house, a rental property or whatever. What they don't understand is I care nothing about money. I care nothing about money. What I do care about is that my family's taken care of. What I do care about is something happens to me that my family's taken care of. So let me just throw this out to you. All young couples in here, if you have young kids, all of you should go out and buy term insurance. Go buy $500,000 or $1 million of term insurance. So if something happens to you, your family's taken care of. If you're young, it's very, very cheap. Okay, that's a way to cover your family, so if something happens to you, they're okay. All right, and so the second love language is amiable, and they prioritize relationships and harmony. Amiable personalities tend to avoid conflict. They're driven by a desire to help others, but may struggle with assertiveness when it comes to money management. Sometimes they can be an avoider. They don't want to argue about anything. So Tracy is amiable. I mean, she just wants everyone to be happy. She wants everyone to have enough. Like she loves buying gifts for people. And so like if I bring her a spreadsheet or something like this, she's like, okay, like I could work on something to show her, hey, this is where we're at. And she's like, okay, well, hey, I have a question. What do you think about it? Whatever you think. That's Tracy's money language. The next one is analytic. And if you're an accountant or something like that, you're probably here. And analytics, they're focused on logic, data, and careful planning. Analytical personalities, they thrive on control and precision, but may struggle with flexibility in financial decisions. Then expressive people, the expressive language, they value experiences and emotional connection. Expressive personalities enjoy spending on things that bring joy or connection, but may overlook the importance of long-term planning. Now, you're probably a combination of these because at this stage of my life, I love to spend money for things that all my kids can do together to bring the family together. So that's expressive. But, I am a driver as well. So how many of you saw yourself in one of these? Yeah? How many of you saw your spouse in one of these? How many of them are different? Yeah, a little bit different. So, hey, look, I'm going to put a site up there. If you'll put the TomiTalks.com up. So if you want to take a picture of that, if you go to this, Tomi Talks, it's Tomi Taluhu. And she has a company called Financial Harmony. And you can take a little quiz to kind of learn what your love language is, what your money language is. But here's the thing. The reason that you can't sit down and have a conversation is 2 things. You have a different psychology of money, how you were raised, what you think about money. The second thing is that you speak a different money language. And when you learn that about each other, then it's not, oh, we're against each other. It's just we're different. So we have to learn to come together and talk about these things. So now let's bring it all together. We've talked about the concept of your rich life, a fulfilled life. It's expression or an ideal in your life where your money and relationships and leisure time are working together. It's a system to help you get a vision for your life of how you want to live in directing your money to your priorities in life. And again, it's a vision. So Proverbs 29:18 says, where there's no vision, the people perish. That word perish means you're just stalemated. You're not making any more progress. You're just kind of stuck. And what happens is when we get stuck in a position in life, it becomes frustrating for us. Then we talk about the different money languages and psychology of money, which can bring a greater understanding of our spouse, allow us to have productive conversations around money. We have to talk about, listen, it is so important. This whole money thing is so important because how we do with money, it determines how we live. It determines where we live. It determines if we can drive a car, what kind of car we can drive, vacations, educational. I mean, there's so many things. So we make too much money in this country to be living upside down. So the conversation Now we're talking about having a conversation. The goal of the conversation is to create a shared vision. Sure, we may speak different money languages, but we come together, we become adults, and we listen to one another, and we don't get upset, and we have this. And so now that we had this, now it comes down, we have to establish a financial plan. How are we going to get to living our rich life? How are we going to bring it all together and make sure that our money is going where we want to go? And so I know that most people, when you talk about budget, they don't like that. So I'm not going to talk about budget. I'm going to talk about a conscious spending plan. So the idea of, now you can Google this and AI will tell you exactly what a conscious spending plan is, okay? But it's a budgeting strategy that helps you align your spending with your values. That's the whole thing. We're going to spend money, but we want to make sure that we spend money on things that are important to us. You know, for example, Trace and I, we always give before we spend anything. Because why? Because supporting the kingdom of God, to us, it's the most valuable thing, you know? And we make sure our money goes to where, so the thing is, if you don't plan it, your money is going to go somewhere anyway, okay? We're going to spend the money. But it's about being intentional with your money and not restricting it. So let me give you just an outline really quick. And again, you can Google this and get help on that. The very first thing you have to know, and 50% of couples don't know, is how much money comes in. What is your take home? After you pay taxes, how much money comes into your account each week from whatever sources that you have? And then the thing about a conscious spending plan, there's only 4 parts to it. It's very, very simple. And the first part is your monthly fixed costs. Your monthly fixed costs, okay? Like after taxes. And basically, what is your rent? What is your mortgage? What is your utilities, insurance, car payment, debt payment, groceries, clothes, phone, any monthly payment. So you're gonna add those up. Now, here's the thing. What most financial experts will say is that really needs to be between 50 and 60% of your income. So if you're at 80%, if you're at 90%, you're not going to have enough to do the other things. So number 1, what are your monthly fixed costs? Number 2, savings goals. And ideally, 5 to 10% of your take-home pay goes to emergencies, things like saving up for vacations, saving up for birthday and Christmas gifts, an emergency fund. The third category is investments. So ideally, 10% of your take-home is going to save for retirement. And now, here's what I know. Most of you in here, you probably the second 2 categories you don't even do. You don't even save, you don't even invest because you're just not there. Your fixed costs are so much. And so, again, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. Here's what I know. This is what I know. When we come together as a couple, and when we bring God into the equation and we start looking at these things, He helps us. He helps us. And I've worked with hundreds of couples over the last 25 years through Financial Peace Universe and different things. And what I've known is when they come together and when they get a vision, it just empowers them. And God can turn around things so quickly. And the fourth area is this, monthly guilt-free spending. And again, he has ideally 20 to 30%. You know, things like eating out, fun activities, travel, concerts, subscriptions, whatever. Amazon Prime, some of you need at least 20% for that, right? A package at your door. So anyway, that is it. So now, as we're concluding here, so again, the goal of this lesson, the goal is, how can we create harmony and unity in our marriage, in our relationship? How can we talk about money? How can we get a vision of how God wants to use and to spend things in a way that we feel good about? And I want to say this as we get ready to close. Again, I know that no matter where you're at, if you bring God in a situation and you just start talking about things, He's going to help you. But I know everyone in here, we want to spend money on things that are a high value, not low value. So there's some things obviously that you're going to have to cut. And are y'all feeling tension? I'm feeling a little tension here. I'm talking about your money. I feel a little tension. I told all the jokes I've got. You know, I got nothing else for you, right? We're trying to finish this thing up. But The tension I feel when I'm speaking on money, I know when you go home, the tension is 3 and 4 times that if you're not doing well. And so we want to bring the tension out. We want to bring the stress out. And we just want to make sure things are aligned. And so when you talk, just say things like this. Hey, we don't have the money to do everything that we want to do. So what are the priorities? What are the priorities? And let's make a shift in here so that we're living out the best life God has for that. And I want to, would you stand with me today? I want to close with this. If there's anyone in here today that needs help, we have resources here at Family Life. We have people here at Family Life that actually come beside people and help them with their finances. So if you just write a note and your name, your number, or email and put it in the offering box on your way out. If you would like to have somebody come alongside and help you, we're certainly welcome to do that. We have people in this church that are qualified to do that. But it also means there has to be honesty. Would you raise your hands with me? I'm going to ask the prayer team to come up this morning. We always like for everyone to have the opportunity to receive prayer. And so if you need prayer for your physical health, for relational health, emotional health, whatever you need prayer for, these men and women would love the opportunity to pray for you. But God, I just pray right now, Lord, you want, money is amoral, Lord. It's what we do with it that matters. And Lord, I know that you don't want there to be arguments and tension and strife, Lord, over finances in our marriage. So God, right now, I pray that you're bringing enlightenment to people. I pray that you're helping us. You're helping married couples to come under the same roof and to have positive conversations, to bring you involved in, Lord, and to use some of these resources we've given today just to create a vision for our lives, Lord God. Lord, we just pray for miracles. I pray, Lord, you're a miracle working God. And Lord, I know you can take a bad situation, you can turn it around, and you can make it become something great. So I just pray, God, that all the tension and all the attitude and everything in relationships in our homes over this, God, it's dissipating. And Lord, harmony and unity and peace and prosperity are coming into our lives. If you don't need prayer, let's just go ahead and let's worship a moment more, then I'll come up and dismiss us in just a minute.